What we're seeing is nuts. There's some all-time highs being set by Bitcoin. There's some stuff that we haven't seen in over 2 years. There's some stuff that we've never seen happening before. And what is happening behind the scenes that some people aren't seeing is crazy. It's absolutely nuts, and it will make you much more bullish on this asset. If you don't mind, hit subscribe. Turn on the bell notification so you can see future videos like this as soon as I make them. If you'd seen my last video, you could have made a lot of money. The one that I just posted a few hours ago, exactly what I said I thought might happen happened. We'll talk about that in a second, but you want to get these videos as fast as possible. Also share this to someone if you know that they might like it. Now, Bitcoin is looking really good. As you can see here, it's up in the $53,000 range. If we go over to Margex here, it's looking very bullish. Right? Just a God candle up. And we haven't seen anything around this price before in years. Let's go back out to the daily. Just soak this in for a little bit because this is bullish. This is something that I said could happen during our last video. Yeah, when you see this, it's been, when is this? And in case you hear some background noise, we do have some cleaners here. But as you can see here, it has been since December of 2021 since we saw this level. And this is like a little bit of resistance, 53,000. If you look here, we have seen a little bit of support around this level. So, we break through this, maybe we go up into that high $50,000 range, which is where we've seen some resistance as well back here. But yeah, this is super bullish. We haven't seen this in 2 years and a couple months. As you can see though, in my last video, I actually talked about how we had a pretty bullish pattern here. We had this, a bullish wedge flag, which typically moves to the upside. Now, some people have said that we had a bull flag, but as you can see here, it does look like we're seeing this move up a little bit less than this is moving down. And I said we could break out, and then we had a big breakout. I also showed here, and we'll get to the specific Bitcoin stuff here in a second. This DCA'd perfectly, and then it's saying to take some profits after this pump here. But if you were using the DCA algo, this would have been really nice for you. Now, I do have some longs open, and I did talk to the Patreon about how I added to some longs just this last weekend. And yeah, they're printing money. You can see some of them here over on Blowfin. There's a link to Blowfin underneath the video as well, to Margex. I use a couple different exchanges. I like to keep diversified even in trading, but you can see some of these positions here up 237%, 25%, 185%. And yeah, we'll get to some of the stuff that's happening here in a second, but I've gotten some flack recently because some of my videos seem a bit repetitive for people. Now, I always talk about something new in the videos. I'm giving new updated numbers, but we go through the Bitcoin ETFs. We go through things that are happening behind the scenes. But this is why I make a lot of videos about Bitcoin. I don't want you to get bored when Bitcoin's between 50,000 and 53,000. And we can always fall back down. Maybe by the time you see this, we're just back in the same range. But that's why I make a lot of videos talking about how there's not enough Bitcoin. There's not enough Bitcoin. It's over. There won't be any Bitcoin. I try to warn you. You want to be buying Bitcoin. Get 0.21 Bitcoin, why that's important. So I still think that's important to hit on all the updated numbers, but like really pound it in. It has been a long time since we've been at this level, so enjoy it. But we might not stay here that long. Like if you're still waiting, don't wait anymore. Dollar cost average. It's been 873 days since Bitcoin was at this price, this $53,500 price. Okay. So I pounded it in your head enough. This is MicroStrategy's announcement. I covered that in the last video. They're buying, Mr. 100's buying, ETFs are buying here this morning. And something that I found really interesting, something that I don't think people are seeing, is that crypto stocks are exploding. Like last time I looked, CleanSpark, let's even update this. CleanSpark's up 21%, maybe 22% now. Yeah, 22%. MicroStrategy's up 15% on the day. And I know that miners usually trade at a premium, or they are like leverage for Bitcoin. So if Bitcoin moves up, these miners are going to move up. But what was so interesting was these miners moved up before Bitcoin moved up. Like when I when the market opened this morning, I looked and CleanSpark was up 12%. Now, Bitcoin was not up at all at that point. It was maybe up a couple $100. They're still in the 51,000 range. So what that tells me is someone knew that there's going to be a couple big buys of Bitcoin. It also tells me that there are entities that still want to get in on the Bitcoin trade but can't buy the ETFs yet, right? Like there are days like this where we see CleanSpark and the other miners. It's not just CleanSpark, to be clear, like MIGI, Mara, MSTR, ARBK, HUT, all Riot. These are all up much more than they would typically be just from Bitcoin going up. And as I said, they were up beforehand. There are people that are buying these that aren't buying the ETFs yet. And I think I know why that is. There are a lot of entities that still aren't allowed to buy the Bitcoin ETFs. It's not approved. It hasn't gone through approval. They're not allowed to buy Bitcoin yet. I'm talking about like some funds, some asset managers, some advisors. They can't buy those, but they can buy the miners. They can go buy CleanSpark because that's been approved. That's been around for a long time. They've taken a look at it. They're okay with buying miners. They have cash flows, right? They're okay with buying these other crypto companies. I mean, heck, last time I looked, I even saw Coinbase up like 10% or something like that. So they're okay buying these. So they are trying to buy Bitcoin, but they can't yet. So they're buying CleanSpark, for example. Now, I will say I am a happy owner of CleanSpark. I just checked to see when the last time, when some of the times I bought CleanSpark were. And I literally have a $2.50 or $2.60 cost basis in one of my accounts. So you can make outsized returns. Like that's a 10x. I made way more on that than I did on Bitcoin. Now, last cycle, these ran a lot harder, a lot faster than Bitcoin. They actually topped out during this first peak on Bitcoin, and they never came back. Like back when we were at the, I don't even want to scroll out to that, but back when we were at the $64,000 level, the first 64,000, I think they even peaked out before that. And then people started selling them. Now, I'd just be careful about that moving into the next cycle. Like make sure that you're taking profits if you feel comfortable taking profits. And even if you don't feel comfortable with it, like consider taking profits because you don't want to hold miners through a bear market. Like it can be rough, as we know. CleanSpark went down 95%, but I don't think we're peaked out in Bitcoin either. This is just like the beginning of the bull market. So I'm not selling any right now, but just know this is up 1,000% in the last year and a couple months or something like that. So these are absolutely going nuts. And I do think it's important to pay attention to how much they go up versus Bitcoin because there are a lot of entities that just can't buy. Will Clemente says, I don't think that people realize how much of an impact PMs taking even a 1 to 3% allocation will have. Bitcoin is still very small. ETFs just launched. Board approvals take time. This is what we were just talking about. Probably don't see the real effects of passive flows until the second half of the year. For now, it's probably just savvy hedge funds. That's true. I mean, take a look. This is Bitcoin. And this might be a little bit old. I think this is old because you can see how big the other companies are. It looks like each one of these is 100 billion. This was when Bitcoin was just 300 billion. Now it's a trillion. So that's something to pay attention to. It would be about half the size or a third the size of Microsoft and Apple, about half the size of Amazon. But you can see how big some of these other assets are. Like this is nothing, right? Bezos has 250 billion or something like that now. Gates has 150 billion. Zuckerberg 200 billion. Whatever. They have so much money, and they don't have to sell all of their. Let's say Zuckerberg wants to put in $1 billion into Bitcoin. It's not like he sells $1 billion and then Bitcoin goes up $1 billion. No, if he sells $1 billion and puts it into Bitcoin, it's moving up 50 to 100x that. That's how the multiple works. That's how it works when you have something that has such a finite supply. So whatever flows into Bitcoin, that 1 to 3%, let's say it's $1 trillion flows into Bitcoin over the next year or 2 years from asset managers, from large individual investors, $1 trillion. that's going to push up the price of Bitcoin a lot more than $1 trillion. That's going to be nuts. Like $1 trillion of new deposits that go buy Bitcoin. I don't even want to throw out how high Bitcoin goes because there's a 50 to 100x multiple on that, on the flows that go and buy Bitcoin. So people aren't bullish enough. That is why I make a lot of videos that seem, somewhat similar, like how you can retire, why you need to start buying Bitcoin. There won't be any Bitcoin left, like that kind of stuff. It's important. I always give updated versions of it. I give new numbers, but it is important to know how crazy this will get. And people don't understand it. People aren't putting in the time to understand it. Eric Balkanis, who works at Bloomberg, says gold's pain is Bitcoin ETF's gain in store of value smackdown. New from me on how gold being in the gutter is like the cherry on top for Bitcoin fans who just got to witness the biggest ETF launch ever. These are the most successful ETFs that have ever been launched, to be clear. And he says there's a decent chance Bitcoin ETFs pass gold ETFs and AUM in less than 2 years. And honestly, it's probably going to be a lot faster than that. Based on what's happening right now, I think he's giving a conservative estimate. If I remember right, Bitcoin AUM from the ETFs is about 1/3 that of gold already. And of course, GBTC was around, right? It was around before for a couple of years, but the other ETFs are brand new. And they have over $10 billion in AUM, $15 billion. And then obviously GBTC has a lot in AUM as well. So these are going to be money makers for everyone that gets their clients involved because they're going to make the fees and the value of Bitcoin is going to go up. Like if they charge, let's say they charge a 1% management fee, right? And this asset goes up 10x. Well, they just increase their fees by 10x. It's going to be nuts. Like they're going to make so much money from this if they can sell it to their clients. And it's not hard to sell. Like it's the best performing asset of all time. And as I said, like there are a couple different ways you can play this. If you're trying to be a little bit more aggressive, you can go leverage. There's no KYC on Blowfin or on Margex. I would suggest trying them both out. It's important to have multiple places to trade, but you can go leverage trade if you want to do that. Otherwise, you can always buy something like CleanSpark or one of these Bitcoin miners. They just have big swings, really big swings. Like one day they can be up 20%, the next day they can be down 15%. So just be careful out there. Make sure you're comfortable with whatever you're doing and stay in the game, stay focused. Like don't let sideways action bore you. Like I could tell like on some of my videos, views went down since after the ETFs were approved. Like everyone was here paying attention to the ETFs, views were crazy, and then things got kind of boring. Bitcoin went down in price a little bit, then went back up, then stayed stagnant. And some people tuned out, but you don't want to tune out. This is the time to tune in. This is the time to receive all the information to make sure that your allocation's where you want it to be. Make sure your security is tight. Make sure you're ready. Make sure you have things set up so you can go trade if you want, so that you can go sell. If you want to take profits, you need to have an exchange that you can sell cheaply that doesn't have large fees, right? You want to make sure that you have all that set up. Make sure your skills are sharp. Make sure you know how to transfer crypto. Make sure you know how to get in on launch pads. Make sure you know how to use decentralized exchanges, all that. Of course, I'm probably preaching to the choir here. You probably already know how to do that, but just want to give some food for thought to some people that are maybe a little bit newer to the crypto space. Now, thank you so much. I appreciate it. It does look like some altcoins are running too, which is nice. Bitcoin is moving and altcoins are moving. Let me know your thoughts on this underneath the video. I will see you in the next one.